Right, Charlie, Madueke has been very impressive from the bench. Should he be starting more?
It's a tough one. It's a very different game starting the game to coming off on the bench. I think when he's come on and the performance he's been putting on it is warranted starting. But the issue that he has, unfortunately, is that the Arsenal star boy plays in the same position as him. So it's going to take the manager to make a brave decision to make that change. And if I'm Noni Madueke, I'm asking the questions, what more can I do? Because when he come on last night, he changed the game in the favour for Arsenal. He got the ball and ran at the defenders, made things happen. In the 58, 59 minutes that Saka was on the pitch, he didn't.
Can you fit them both in?
I know, because you get the best out of them when they both play on that right-hand side. And that's why they haven't tried to fit them both in. So for me, you've got to play players in form. And Madueke's the one at the moment that's just stepping up to the plate.
Arsenal, I think you can say they were unconvincing last night, but they got a draw, big favourites to go through. So will Arteta care that they were unconvincing?
No, absolutely not. They want to stay in the tie. They didn't lose, drew the game, going back to the Emirates full. They'll be hot favourites for the game, of course, and he'll be pleased with that they're not out of the tie. They didn't lose the game. They showed character to stay in the game and get the last-minute penalty that Kai Havertz scored and almost put them in a position now where they can be, all right, this is a job we've got to do now. But the surprising bit on the whole thing was that Bayer Leverkusen done to Arsenal what Arsenal have been doing to every Premier League team. So that was a bit of an eye-opener, how Arsenal allowed Bayer Leverkusen to score, but the goal was identical to the goals we see Arsenal score pretty much week in, week out.
Kai Havertz is back. How important can he be for Arsenal?
Very important. Very important. When he comes back in, the style of play that we've seen Arsenal play with is kind of suits Kai Havertz. So for me, he's going to be an important player from now to the end of the season, with the Premier League push, with the Champions League push, Carabao Cup coming up, final coming up, and the FA Cup. They're in 4 competitions, and they're well in 4 competitions.
Martin Odegaard, when he was playing, a lot of Arsenal fans were coming on and saying Eze should be playing, or when Havertz is back, he should be playing in that kind of more advanced midfield role. But did Arsenal miss his energy and certainly his creativity?
When you perform the way he does, then you put yourself on a pedestal where if you don't perform to the levels, then people are going to say, oh, you need to come out. Other players should be given the opportunity to play in there. But ultimately, he's the captain of the football club. He's there for a reason. That is for his creativity. That is for his energy. That is for the stuff that he brings on the pitch. So for me, at times, and in games like that, they do miss it.
Well, Sky Sports are partnered with Analysis to discover true fan. Morning, what did you make of the performance last night?
Morning, guys. Yeah, it wasn't a great Arsenal performance. Nobody's going to try and claim it was anything other than that. I thought it was lacklustre at times. I thought it was a little bit pedestrian. I thought Arsenal were moving the ball too slowly. I certainly saw moments where Arsenal could have played a ball in behind, for example, for Gyökeres that bit earlier, or worked it into Eze that little bit earlier, and it just didn't happen. So I think pedestrian is the word I'd probably use to describe it. And you know, the reason I think Arsenal fans are feeling the way they are, and the reason why there always seems to be this discourse around this type of performance, is that we see them quite often. Now, is that, I'm not saying it's deliberate that Arsenal go out there and play with, you know, not quite being in anything more than 3rd or 4th gear, but it does feel like at times that they're thinking about sustainability. They're thinking about longevity of the season. And it feels like in certain games, they're choosing to lean on their defensive strength and not looking to exert themselves in the hope that over the course of the campaign, maybe that's going to get them to where they need to be. Maybe crumbling the way they have in recent seasons has kind of caused a slight change in the approach, not just from the manager, but in terms of the players as well in games like last night.
Madueke versus Saka, what do you think?
I mean, listen, the beauty of having a squad like Arsenal have is that when someone's not playing particularly well, you can take them out, you can bring someone in who's a massive threat, and you can bring someone in who isn't going to see the level drop too much. Madueke has blown hot and cold at points this season. At times he's been amazing, and at times he's not had the impact that we would have hoped. Bukayo Saka's had, I think, some really good games since he's come back from injury. The North London derby away from home is the one that sticks out for me in terms of the performance. I don't think we're in a spot now where we should be saying Bukayo Saka's not the guy on the right-hand side for Arsenal Arsenal anymore. Madueke's knocking on the door, and that's great. And we can make those changes. And if Madueke starts at the weekend, I don't think too many people will complain. But that is the beauty of the squad. Pitting them up against each other, I don't really see the benefit from an Arsenal point of view of doing that. There's competition there. They're both great footballers. They both bring something different, in my opinion. And having those options means that the manager's got what he needs to be able to pick the right tool for the right job.
But he's always had them options, Harry, and that's why he's built the squad that he has. And no one's saying it's Saka v Noni Madueke, and it's the timing. When you come on for the last half an hour, 20 minutes of a game, it's very different to starting a game, right? It really is. I just thought last night showed that what Saka did in the first 58 minutes, we couldn't really get past him. He wasn't playing with that kind of freedom or that what we've seen him do and expect him to do so often, right? Then when Noni Madueke come on, he just almost done it instantly. And I get it. First half an hour to the last half an hour is very different. But at times, do you think Mikel Arteta will take Saka out and play Madueke and then at times bring Saka off the bench? Or do you think Saka is guy that will stay on the right?
It's an interesting one because if I'm honest with you, I was watching the game yesterday and I was looking at it and I was going, Saka's not playing very well. I'd take him off. But there was a part of me that was like, he's the captain tonight. He's kind of the talisman of this team. Would Mikel Arteta do that? And I was pleasantly surprised, actually, that he went, no, do you know what? You're not playing well tonight. Let's get you off. That showed a lot for me in terms of how Mikel Arteta has kind of changed a bit as a coach in recent years, how he's developed as a coach, how it's not about one ego, it's not about one person, it's about the collective. And it showed me that he's got trust in his squad, that you would take off arguably your best player in a game where you need a goal and bring someone on who at times has divided opinion. I liked it. I liked that he made that move. And if he makes that change going forward, if it's based on form, nobody's going to complain. You know, when we built and assembled this squad, it was always with a view to having different options. Madueke in a crowd scene, for me, is better. He's a much more dangerous dribbler. I think he commits people. And once he gets past you or he pops a pass off left and right, he's sucked in 3 or 4 defenders and he creates carnage all the time. Saka, I'd rather it was Saka cutting in and having a shot. So they've got different strengths and they've got different attributes. And I just think what the game needed at that stage last night was more Madueke than Saka. And Saka didn't have a good night. But that can happen.
How important can Havertz be?
For me, he's so important. He's so important. I think it's gone under the radar, actually. You know, how much Arsenal have missed him this season. I think we keep talking about the squad, the strength and depth. There's lots of focus, obviously, on Victor Gyökeres, big money signing in the summer, the centre forward that Arsenal needed, according to a lot of people. And I actually think that the idea that they went for Gyökeres was in part because they felt that he would have the time to adapt and develop because he'd be able to share the role with Kai Havertz. Well, that hasn't been the case. Havertz has missed the majority of the season. He's incredibly versatile. We can play in that attacking midfield role. We can play at centre forward. He can win duels. He can score goals. For me, you know, missing him has been a massive blow. And actually getting him back fit and protecting him enough to make sure that he doesn't have, hopefully, any more setbacks is probably going to be a real decisive factor in whether or not Arsenal can go on and win one of the big ones this season. I really do believe that.
If Arsenal go through and Manchester City don't, does that help you win the title?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. There was a part of me last night watching Manchester City and thinking, you know, as a rival fan, you know, you want Real Madrid to do the business. But then there was a part of me thinking, this means that they probably will focus more on the Premier League. They don't have that potential quarter-final where, you know, they're going to face, you know, Bayern Munich maybe in 2 games either side of a Premier League game. So in that sense, you know, you kind of want them in it to have those more, to have more games, to have more challenging games in between Premier League games and all the rest of it. But then does it dent their confidence? The fact that they've gone to Real Madrid and got beaten the way they have. I guess we won't know until the end of the season. But in answer to your question, I'd rather they have more games than less games, and I'd rather they have more of those high-intensity games than less games and the time to prepare and build for matches.
OK, thank you, Harry.
Cheers, guys.
Let's talk about Arsenal then, because maybe unexpected result in this one. I think Leverkusen were at home against Arsenal. 1-1 was the final score. Arsenal were perfect in the Champions League phase. This is the first time they drop any points, Thierry.
Games away from home in Champions League are always difficult. I said it and I will say it again. I do think that still Arsenal will go through. It will be a different game at the Emirates. I don't think Arsenal were good tonight. but they managed to bring a draw back to the Emirates, and that's one of the things I would say about Arsenal, that back in the days people were saying that Arsenal cannot win ugly, that they cannot bring a game back or try to, man versus boys. You can't defend the lead, you can't defend anything, you always get bullied. Now Arsenal are pretty good at that, and people are not happy that they're good at that now because they went away from maybe the way we used to play. I'm talking about how they used to play also 3 to 4 years ago. So I said it before, and I will say it again, and we were saying it in a green room. You don't have to like how Arsenal play, but you can surely respect it. You understand what I mean? It's not about but it's not about what you like or what I like.
Oracle again, is that it?
I'm just saying that doesn't mean
you don't have to like it. But you will.
But listen, you don't. I'm not saying that Arsenal will win the Champions League. I'm not saying that Arsenal, and you know where I stand, that are going to win the league. I'm just saying that they were a team that people used to call them on something that it looks like that they couldn't do. Now they master it, and they still didn't go over the line. Hear me well. But now people are complaining that they find a way to win games.
We're all bored.
No, that isn't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, again, Rosinho likes to play that way. It's not your team. This is my team, actually, when we talk about Arsenal. But is it what I like to see? It's not an issue. Simeone and Jose Mourinho used to be praised for playing a certain way. You don't always have to control the game being in possession. You can control the game in many ways in football. And they did find a way. And yes, again, I repeat, Arsenal were not good today. But they managed to find a way to bring something back home. And again, let's see what's going to happen towards the end of the season if we can celebrate something.
I think
we're far from that.
A really interesting thing here for the Premier League is if City, we look like, go out, Arsenal, I think, will go through. How much of an impact this has on the Premier League? Because I think Arsenal should get to at least the semi-finals. That could have a bearing in the Premier League.
Interesting.
Martin, because the majority of that team was completely different from the team who started in the FA Cup, so they had a rest.
10 changes, and you'd have thought there would have been a bit of freshness. There is the 46th game of the season. You are playing against a Leverkusen side who's quite underrated. The home record there has been outstanding. So if you're sloppy at any point you go behind, it's going to be difficult to get back in. And that was the surprise from an Arsenal point of view. The tempo wasn't moving the ball nearly quick enough, particularly at the start of that second half, and they got punished.
And Leverkusen, they came out at the start of that second half, Karen. They flew out of the blocks and actually could have scored from the kick-off.
Yeah, Leverkusen came out, but Arsenal didn't, and that's where it started, from the kick-off. I think Saka just steps in as if to go, right, I'll go and press, and now fair play to Leverkusen. We said aesthetically they're a good team, they play through you, and they went, right, we'll throw this at Arsenal and see what they do. And to be fair, Raya comes off with an unbelievable save there, but switched off. Arsenal was still in at half-time in the dressing room, Martin.
And I think as well, so much now in the Premier League, these restarts, kick-offs particularly, are kicked out of play, and that was they tried to play through Arsenal, and then this would have been embarrassing because, look at all those Arsenal players at the near post and the middle of the pitch, and it's just a movement at the back. I don't know if Eza slips and it's his man, but it's far too easy. It's a free header at the back post. I don't think it'll happen again. It's very unusual. I think in 127 corners in the Bundesliga, I think they've only scored 4, but they've done pretty well with that one.
And unusual from an Arsenal point of view as well. They've only conceded from 4 corners in the Premier League, none in the Champions League until that moment.
Oh, you saw the coach giving the Arsenal set-piece coach maybe a little bit of banter, saying you're not the only one who takes this seriously, and we saw something, a weakness in you, and it was because it was from the kick-off. They saw that, which is a set-piece, and obviously the vulnerabilities around the back post for that corner.
And Everton are probably going to look at that, Martin, and think we're going to do that all day long at the weekends.
That's right. That was an up and under, wasn't it? That incredible kick-off. But there you are. Maybe we look at the Premier League and